Rangers part ways with Coach Gallant after massive playoff disappointment. Was this a mistake or not? Welcome back to EDI Sports Cards. Wow, that didn't take very long. I just put out a video, a day ago about the New York Rangers, and already they have let go Coach Gerard Gallant. Now, what happened? Obviously, things really moved quickly in New York. And from all of the reports, Elliot Friedman reporting that there were exit interviews with the players. And basically, that's what done Coach Gallant in. They talked to the players, and basically whatever they said, Coach Gallant heard it, and he and Chris Drury sat down, and they both agreed he will not come back for next season. Now, that puts the Rangers in a really tough spot. And so I'm going to actually go over what's going on in the New York Ranger organization and the type of real struggle that Chris Drury is going to have this year. This is not going to be an easy offseason. If nobody was aware of this, as I did the research, let me just tell you, I did a deep dive on this. There is a lot of problems going on. So let's first go over Coach Gallant's career with the Rangers. We had 2 seasons. He had a winning season or winning career. He was 99-46. That's a .604 winning percentage. That's pretty good. And he got fired. His playoff record was 13-14. Last year they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, this year they got booted in the first round. And the team record in the playoffs under last year was 10-10. So just so to understand, so they were 3-4 this year. They were 10-10 last year. So it's not like they did really well last year either. So maybe that also played into it, is the playoff record. But a lot of players did really well under Gallant. In fact, Chris Kreider did his best in his whole career, and I alluded to that in the last video. Chris Kreider had 52 goals last season. He had 82 points total in the 2 years under Gallant. And prior to Gallant, he had only 177 goals in 9 seasons, and he never scored 30 in any season. So under Coach Gallant, Chris Kreider took his game to a whole other level. And Mika Zibanejad, the same thing. Mika scored 68 goals under Gallant, 81 points last season, 91 points this season, never scored more than 75 points in his career. So top 2 players for the Rangers became superstars under Gallant. Whoever comes in has really big shoes to fill. That's all I'm going to say. Whoever comes in to replace Coach Gallant has a lot of work to do. Now, what was the system under Coach Gallant? And just so everybody's aware, again, the Rangers played much better under Coach Gallant than they did previously under David Quinn. So Chris Kreider was a +21 this season. He was a +19 last season. And the year before under Quinn, he was a -1. Okay, and Mika Zibanejad was +25 this season. He was +30 last season. And the year before under Quinn, he was a +2. So both Mika and Chris did not have very good years under Coach Quinn. And as everybody knows, the kid line, so Hedel, Lafreniere, and Kakko, all had career years this season. Like, they made a huge leap forward in both offense and defense under Coach Gallant. Just gonna say it. So whether or not this was a good or bad decision, it's over now. Chris Drury has basically said, we're done with you. I don't know who they're going to get, but we got a bigger problem, or Chris has a bigger problem, because this is the cap hit. As you can see, the Rangers have $1,000 or $2,000. That's it. Like, in between, $1,600. That's the room they've got. Basically, this is their roster that is under contract. So you can see there's 8 players that they have under contract. These are the forwards. I'm going to focus on the forwards. I don't want to deal with the defense because that's another mess. we'll get into that maybe in another video. But these are the forwards. So Panarin is leading the list at 11.6 mil. You go down, you've got Mika with 8.5, Kreider at 6.5, Trocheck at 5.6, Hedl at 4.4. That's a brand new contract. Barclay Goodrow makes 3.6. Capo Caco also has a relatively new contract at 2.1, and Jimmy Vesey signed at the beginning of the season for 2 years at $800,000. You can see the contract ends. So really the problem comes in not this next season, but the following season. You have a bunch of contracts that are going to expire. And so, I mean, basically the Rangers are between a rock and a hard place. So here's the Ranger roster under contract, just on the ice. So you can kind of see center, left wing, right wing. You see there's 4 holes. That's a problem. That's 4 forwards to fit under the salary cap, which is not going to be easy. And as you can see, that's left leaning. We've got a ton of left wingers. So you've got Panarin, Kreider, Lafreniere, Vesey, and then you've got also the prospects of Brendan Othmann and Tim Gettinger. They're both left wingers. And then on the right-hand side, we don't have that many right wingers. It's actually a problem the Rangers are going to have to figure out, because Capo Caco's the only right winger right now under contract. Literally the only right winger. And then you got Johnny Brodzinski down in the minors playing for Hartford, as well as Ryan Carpenter. Look at it again. You've got 3 holes on the right side. So it's a big problem. Now, what do the Rangers have to spend? They have $11 million to spend to split 7 ways. You've got 4 open forward spots. You've got 2 open defensemen, and you need a backup goaltender for $11 million. So that means somebody's probably not coming back. And so here's what the offseason looks like for Drury. You've got an RFA for Alexei Lafreniere. You've got an RFA for Keandre Miller. Now, I don't see them letting Keandre go because he's one of the top new defensemen, like young defensemen. So does that mean Lafreniere's movable? I don't even know if, I guess they can because he's a restricted free agent, so they can move him. In some kind of deal, I guess they can maybe sign him under contract and then trade him. I'm not sure how that would work, but it looks like Lafreniere has no spot. They just can't afford him. So, and who else is going to get shipped off? Remember, so Lafreniere is a restricted free agent. Capo is getting $2.1 million, and they just gave Hedl $4.4 million. So my assumption is that Lafreniere's agent's going to ask for at least 4. You know, he's going to say, well, I was the number 1 draft pick. You know, Hedl's getting $4.4 million. Like, I'm as good as he is, maybe better. And so the Rangers are going to have to fork over a lot of money, and then they're not going to be able to keep him. So who's left out? You got 3 left wingers. You got Panarin, Kreider, and Lafreniere. You can only keep 2. So you're keeping Panarin. That's an obvious. You're probably keeping Kreider because he's the face of the franchise. So Lafreniere's out. Now, I've seen rumors online that Lafreniere may go to Montreal. That's where he's from. And so that would make sense. I don't know what you get back for him, but that means you're losing Lafreniere. That you're losing your number 1 draft pick. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but that's not a good situation. And maybe it's a blessing in disguise that Gallant is leaving. Maybe that's why he said, you know what, I'll just go. Because this team might not get to the playoffs next year. Like, it might be over. Like, the rebuild might be in stage 2 now. And we're really going to have to see what Drury can do, because based on the salary cap, the Ranger rebuild may be over. The whole thing may be over. You've got a whole bunch of players you got to pay, and they have really paid up for these guys. Like, I mean, Vincent Trocheck's making $5.6 million. So does he get moved? Barclay Goodrow is making $3.6. Does he get moved? Personally, I think you can't pay a 4th line guy $3.6 million. And originally, Barclay was going to be the 3rd line. So that made more sense, but he's now on the fourth line. So do those two guys get moved? Because you got all of these prospects coming in. So here's the Hartford farm team. You got Tim Gettinger, Will Coyle, who you remember played a little bit at the end of last season. You got Brennan Othman, who's only 20 years old. And then you got on the right wing, you've got Johnny Brzezinski, who's 30. And then you got Ryan Carpenter, who's 32. Again, the Rangers don't have any right wingers. So if they're going to make some trades, like if they're going to trade Lafreniere, they're going to trade, let's say, Trocheck, or they're going to trade Barclay Goodrow, they need to get back a center, and they need to get back a big either center or right winger for the fourth line. Because now you have, you've got Jimmy Vesey on the left side. I don't know who's going to be the center, and then who's on the right wing. So now you got a lot of holes. And what looked like a really great roster, because you put in Tarasenko, who was a right winger, and Kane, who was a right winger, now looks like a roster that's kind of blank. So here you go. Here's the proposed lines for next year. So you've got Panarin over on the left side, first line, obviously, with Zibanejad at center. I don't know where Kreider goes. That's the problem. So if Lafreniere is out, well, Kreider moves into the second line, so he plays with Hedel and Kakko. Okay, that's a pretty decent line. Or maybe Panarin plays with Hedel and Kakko. I think Panarin needs to play with Zibanejad, because Panarin needs someone to pass to. And Zibanejad's the only one that shoots. So, I mean, what else do you do unless you figure out who's going to be your first line right winger? Again, look at this roster right here on the ice. It's blank. It doesn't look so good. It doesn't look like a playoff contender anymore. This is a tough lineup. You're not going to beat the Devils with this lineup. You're not going to beat the Islanders with this lineup. You're not going to beat Carolina with this lineup. The Rangers might not make the playoffs next year unless they can fix this problem. So Drury has a lot of work to do this summer. I don't know what he's going to do. I would love to hear your comments. What do you think? Should they trade Lafreniere? Should they trade Trocheck? Should they trade Barclay Goodrow? All these guys are getting really high salaries, and you're not getting that production from them. Trocheck's a great center. He's a great center, but is he worth what he's getting paid? Panarin's a 90-point guy. He's $11 million. You want a 90-point guy, you got to pay $11 million. Zibanejad's a first wing, a first line center. You got to pay for a first line center, but he's a first liner. Everybody else can't be making $8 million. It's just not going to work. You have a cap, and maybe Drury thought that the cap was going to get extended, therefore he would have more room, but he doesn't have any room. I mean, when you pay Hedel $4 million, that puts Lafreniere at the same price, and you have $11 million to split 7 ways. Like I said, you got 4 forwards that need to be signed, 2 defensemen that need to be signed, and a backup goaltender that needs to be signed. That's 7 positions for $11 million. And in today's salaries, unless you're getting players for $1 million, which you're not, you can't fit all the roster spots. So that means that they're going to need some rookies to come in. They're going to need some young guys that are on, real basic salary contracts. And they got to move some of these players. So what do you think? Let me know. Put it in the comments. I want to thank you for joining me on this one. I know this is a deep dive into the Rangers, but I just had to do it. I mean, like literally 2 days ago, Coach Gallant was yelling at the press, "I'm not fired. What are you talking about?" It's 2 days later, 48 hours later, and Gallant is out, and now Drury has to deal with this mess. Again, maybe Coach Gallant saw the writing on the wall and was like, I had a great run. I got 100 points 2 years in a row. I leave on a winning schedule. I had a great playoffs. I'll get another job because I did a great job. And the Rangers are going to have to deal with this mess without me. And does Chris Knoblauch even want to walk into this? If that's the rumors that Chris Knoblauch's going to get the job, does he even want this job? I don't know. I would want to know from Chris Drury, who are you bringing in? Because this roster is not a playoff roster. The roster they left with, the one they lost with in the playoffs, was a Stanley Cup roster. This roster has a lot of holes. Thanks for joining. I'll see you in the next video.